I'm Michael Pechek, filling in on short notice. And we're here again with week number 5 of the Pauper Premier League. As every week, this is brought to you by Wizards of the Coast and CoolStuffInc. So big thanks to them for putting on this great little event. Other things just to sort of get out there. We do want to thank Athena and Randy Bueller for their work on the Super League format. And just to close out the sort of top of the show things, CoolStuffInc currently has a promo code. It's PPL5, and that'll get you 5% off your order as sort of a co-promotion with this. So, CVM, how have you been doing today? What are you excited for this week?
I am. Now that we got all the boring stuff out of the way, we can start talking Pauper.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we're week 5 coming in here. Of the 4 competitors, Evan is currently 0-3. Kendra is filling in for Emma, playing her deck, but Emma is 0-3. Joseph Pirani is 1-2, and I'm currently 2-1. So I'm hoping to, if I can pull a 3-0 out of this split, it will put me in a pretty good spot to try and make it into the elimination rounds.
Wonderful. And so you brought elves this week. What was some of your thinking behind picking that deck this week? Was it motivated by the people you knew you would be playing against? What kind of went into that decision?
So I brought elves because I felt like as we're getting towards the middle of these splits, there's going to be more and more Astrolabe decks. So early on in this show, there weren't a ton of people playing the Astrolabe decks just because I think that we felt, since most of us are content creators, that we wanted to try and have some nice content for the viewers. But as things are starting to come down the stretch, wins is all that's going to matter. So I felt there was going to be a lot more Astrolabe decks. And I feel really comfortable against all the different Astrolabe decks with the Elf deck, as it's one of the few decks that can go way over the top and just overwhelm the little bit of card advantage they try and generate every turn.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. And before the show, we were kind of talking briefly. There were 2 sort of faster decks that were submitted this week versus 2 slightly slower Astrolabe decks. So we also have Kendra standing in for Emma, and she is going to be on Boggles tonight. And this is one of those tried and true archetypes. How do you like Boggles in this field where we've got Joseph on this Bant Ephemerate list, and we have Evan Irwin on the full-on 4-color Arkham's Astrolabe control?
So I think that Boggles is in a good spot against the 2 slower decks. The Ephemerate familiar style deck that Joseph Pirani is on has the potential to do a little bit more than the 4-color control deck. But looking through here, both my deck and Emma's deck are focused on using the combat step. And while Joseph is playing, one of those familiar Ephemerate style decks, there is no the Stone Chanter, or whatever the elephant is that makes your opponent skip their combat step. So without that card, the Boggles deck or the Elf deck, I think that ultimately Emma and I are both going to be able to run away with this split, and it's going to come down to which one of us can beat the other to get the 3-0.
Yeah, I do really like both of those decks' chances against sort of they're kind of like maligned as the sort of sit around and draw a bunch of cards and win with some sort of minimal win condition, and just sort of applying that early pressure, I think, is going to work out pretty well against those.
Yeah, so coming up in the first round, we're going to have Emma's Boggles deck piloted by Kendra against Evan on 4-color control. And looking through here, just the strategy of Boggles is going to be blanking a ton of the cards that Evan has. The one thing that's really interesting is Evan has 2 copies of Mystic Remora in the main deck, which have the potential to draw a ton of cards, but there really isn't any way for him to catch back up once the Boggles deck is able to get, an Ethereal Armor and an Armadillo Cloak on one of their creatures. It's just going to eventually kill the control deck. They are 4-color, but it does not look like they have access to any edict type effects.
Yeah, the one thing that did sort of jump out to me immediately was the fact that over the course of a full 75, 0 edict effects. There is that one of Swirling Sandstorm in the board that could potentially, if it can get snapped off really quickly, might be able to take care of some stuff. But it looks like it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for the control deck.
Yeah, I expect that the Boggles deck will be able to take this one, but it's going to come down to how the players play. One thing to keep in mind, though, is Kendra is stepping in for Emma here, and Kendra did top 8 the Pauper Mythic Championship qualifier that was at Grand Prix LA, Magic Fest LA earlier this year with Boggles. So this is not a deck that she is not she's not unfamiliar with it. She has the reps in, and she's going to be able to pilot the deck pretty well, I think.
Yeah, she as a friend of Kendra, I know that this is one of the decks that she loves to play, and I don't think I've ever. I'm excited to see how she does with it, and hopefully it's a list that she feels pretty comfortable with. This might not be her exact 75, but I think the broad strokes are pretty. All right, we're going to be resetting the stream here in just a second for some technical stuff. Don't go anywhere.
And when we get back, we'll be down on the match.